YouTube fan community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Beach Boys' live 1973 album, The Beach Boys in Concert, released on Warner Brothers Records. I absolutely love this album. The energy on it, the atmosphere, the vibe, the double record set, the packaging, the whole thing about it screams 70s collection for me, and I love everything about it. This particular copy of mine it's a little beat up, like the jacket's kind of beat, but the records are in good shape. But just like opening it up and seeing like all these really great pictures of the guys from the early '70s, you get a feel for the band at that time. And this version of the band, the live album, the live version of this group at this point was, with Ricky and Blondie in the band, and they were just so on top of their game and really making amazing shows happen, and I'm glad that this album exists. They recorded a lot of shows during this time, the end of '72 and a lot of '73 to make up this album. And this album comprises of a bunch of shows kind of mashed together, but just an excellent set, really, really well done, and really one of the last amazing things the Beach Boys put out, as a creative, current, forward-thinking unit before 50 Big Ones happened. So, overall as a whole, 1973 was an interesting year for them. The year started out with a couple of things from Warner Brothers basically saying, look, by May 1st, we need Smile to come out, which obviously never happened, but Warner's was like, yeah, we're going to put Smile out, and if you don't put it out, you're going to owe us $50,000, we're going to take away this advance payment. And sure enough, May 1st rolled around, and sure enough, Warner's pulled it from them. So there was could you imagine, Smile coming out around this time? And there's shows where they play, Wonderful from that. And on the Endless Harmony CD, Mike even says, hey, we're going to put out Smile pretty soon. Could you imagine if that had come out? That's just so bizarre to think about. But yeah, they were told that in February, and then by May 1st, obviously nothing happened. Around this time in the spring, as Carl was kind of in control of the band at this point, he went to see Jack Riley, their manager, over in the Netherlands, where he was still living after they finished Holland. And he said, hey, we gotta figure this out. We just got this note from Warner's, what do we do? And while he was over there, he found out that the Surf's Up album was named Best Album of the Year for 1971 in this thing called the Edison Awards. It's like the Grammy Awards, but in the Netherlands. So he accepted the award for Surf's Up, which is pretty cool. Their father Murray passed away in June of that year at the very young age of 56. And Brian went to New York right when that happened. Dennis went to Europe, and Carl was the only Wilson brother to go to the funeral. And right after that, that's when Brian really started to retreat. He really started to stay in bed more. He started eating more, doing more drugs, basically only going out to get more drugs or more food. And he basically stayed in bed for the next couple of years. Right before 1973, Bruce left the band, and by the end of this year, Blondie would leave the band as a result of having a fight with Steve Love, who was then their new manager at that point. But this album is significant because it was their best charting album since Wild Honey. It went to number 25 in the charts, which was a really good showing in the U.S. It was the first record to go gold since Best of the Beach Boys in 1966. And by the end of the year, Mike would chop off his beard and do this 1890s bank man looking thing. So it was a pretty big year. That said, I do actually want to go through the songs on this thing because I think the presentation of the whole thing is absolutely stellar. They are just on fire throughout this whole album. So let's just jump in. The album opens up with Sail On Sailor. What an amazing intro. It's impassioned, it's euphoric, it's got a absolutely spiritual vibe, as Brian would put it. The live feel of Ricky on the drums throughout this track and throughout the entire album. Just the way he hammers away, the way he splashes the cymbals, the way he slaps onto the snare drum. His enthusiasm as a drummer creates a whole different life for the band. Dennis is a great drummer, but Ricky added a whole different kind of texture, which allowed Dennis to really shine either on the keyboards or just vocally, which he really excelled at. But the rolling bass from Ed Carter throughout this whole thing, the commanding organ that just pumps away the whole time. Absolutely wonderful, giant way to open this album. Then you get Sloop John B, just falls right into Sloop John B with Carl taking the lead. It's slightly sped up, and I really like the way Mike sings in this song. It's not super, not like nasally like he can be, but he really sings like eloquently, which I really enjoy. And it's a little bit like less peppy. It's a little bit more chill, a little more laid back. I like his vocal approach to this track. And again, the bass on this thing is awesome. Really, really up-tempo bass. Track 3 on this thing, The Traitor. This is a real like heavy version for me. I really like this one a lot. I almost would say it's better than the studio one. But again, excellent background vocals throughout this thing. Carl takes the lead again. Just a real up-tempo version of this thing. Excellent track. You Still Believe in Me, Al takes the lead on this one, and I really can't believe how awesome this version is. Al really sounds like Brian a lot of the times on this version, but it's presented so smoothly, even without like the bike horns and the bells and stuff. To present like this kind of music so thoroughly and thoughtfully and convincingly, they really pulled it off. It's an amazing track and totally a deep cut. I mean, they would have never played this in 1967, but like hearing them now as a really, really professional rock and roll band, stretching out their legs, doing their own thing, kind of feeling what the early 70s are going to be like, to hear them expand their sound and delve into their tracks and, dig up something like that for a live audience is really special. And as a thank you for being good, here's California Girls. It's got that slow burn intro, but definitely not as slow and burny as it would eventually become, especially by like 1980s Live at Nebworth CD, where that intro is just real slow. Kind of build up the hype. But yeah, the crowd is eating it up. They're bouncing along, they're jumping along, they're singing along. It's a cool, crazy atmosphere. Then you bust into Darlin', which is probably one of my favorite versions of this song. It's so full of soul, the playing is warm and exciting, the vocals are super expressive, and Ricky's drumming is just slapping away, he's really swinging, and his fills add so much texture to the songs, which I really, really enjoy. And again, the organ bursts throughout this thing are just killer. Side 2 opens with Marcello, which is probably an even better version than the studio track. The big guitars on this thing, the way they interweave with each other, the hand clapping that you can imagine everyone doing in the audience. It's a big rock song to bounce along to at the Beach Boys show. Really, really fun. Easily one of the best standout tracks on this album, and I really love the cymbal work from Ricky on this one for sure. Then you get Caroline No with Carl singing it. He introduces the song, and it's really mesmerizing the way he sings it. At this point, you realize how much the band has developed live. If you were in England at this point, you would have gotten the Live in London album in 1969 or 1970, and but in America, you would have had the Beach Boys concert in 1964 and then this one. Or if you had seen them live in the late 60s, they were a pretty good, really good band at that point too. But by this point, there was just a level of professionalism that they hadn't had before. And I think that attributes to them delving deeply into their catalog and playing harder songs and translating that well to an audience. And, I mean, with that, you get songs like Caroline No, and it's just absolutely amazing to hear something like that live and done so well. Which leads you into Leaving This Town, which is an absolute standout track. I've always loved this song, but hearing it live just creates an atmosphere of sophistication. It shows off their talents, and it has this otherworldly soul going on through it. Blondie's vocals are gripping throughout the entire thing. The background vocals are absolutely amazing. And again, Ricky is that ace in the sleeve, just hammering away and adding the right dimension of drums to exactly where they need to be. And I love the jamming that happens throughout this thing too. It definitely gives that you're on a double album here now, because you're allowing the space to breathe for a jam. And then you get Heroes and Villains, which is a totally wild and expertly performed version of this song. Al sings it here. Carl does the bicycle rider bit. I love the fast-paced rhythm of it. It just sounds wild and psychedelic and crazy. And it doesn't come across as cheesy with the whole heroes, the heroes, the heroes, and the villains that Mike does sometimes. They don't do that here, but I really like this version. Side 3 opens with Funky Pretty, which this version, I really would totally pick this version as the best one. The one on the album's great. This one has a whole different life to it. Of the excitement, the tempo, the really into it playing from everybody. The power is just unbelievable throughout this track, and the way they weave their vocals at the end, awesome. Let the Wind Blow. Holy moly, this song is haunting. It's so beautiful. The bluesy solo in the middle totally has a slightly B.B. King feel for a little bit. It's an excellent addition, and totally a song out of left field. I mean, who knows if people even knew what this song was when they were seeing the band in 1973. Maybe they hadn't picked up Wild Honey. Maybe the last album they heard was Pet Sounds. You never know. But I bet a lot of people went out and bought that album after hearing that song. Then, as a thank you for some more new songs, you could hear Help Me Rhonda, which is a great version. It's got a whole new feel, almost a country rock funk kind of vibe. It just crashes along, and Al does a great lead on it. Super upbeat, high energy, fun song to get into. Surfer Girl is absolutely amazing. Those vocals are still super on point. And the track itself, for me, I feel like it's presented by a band that's like, hey, you know what? We were really good when we were kids. We've kind of moved past that sound now, but we'll do it for you anyway. We'll do it really well. It's got that kind of like, yeah, we've been there, but, you know, we're playing the new stuff, but we'll throw in a couple of oldies for you kind of feel. But they do it so well. Is that Mike on the bridge? I can't tell if Mike's singing that part. Then you get Wouldn't It Be Nice with Al singing lead. And they really capture that youthfulness on here, that happiness that's there. I love the clapping throughout. Just a great version. And then side 4, you start off with We Got Love, which makes his debut here, which would have been on Holland originally, but the original version was rejected. This song should have been a hit. It's got so many great pop rock elements to it. It's got that grassroots feel, the sing-along chorus, the ascending melody line. It's got such a groovy vibe. I mean, it totally, if it was promoted right, it could have been a humongous smash for the Beach Boys, and I really think would have changed a lot of their skeptics' perception of them, to show that, like, yeah, we got some new guys in the group, you know, we're all gelling really well. This is us now, you know. Can you dig it? I really think it would have been a big song for him. Then you get Don't Worry Baby, which is a really great track, and Al does his best Brian again on this one, and he really hits a lot of the high notes very well. They capture the feel of the studio version, which is super impressive. I mean, they really, you know, they got a good group of guys in the band, you know, the 6 Beach Boys, and then you got, you know, 4 or 5 other musicians backing them up, so there's a lot of people on stage, and they really, really captured that feel well. Enjoyed that a lot, and I think the audience enjoyed that too. Then you get Surfin' USA, and you know, from here on out, it's 3 hits, you know, right in a row. I mean, this is such an awesome rockin' version of Surfin' USA, and you know, at this point, like American Graffiti was coming out, and you know, or would have come out around this time. So I mean, like there was a little bit of that like early '60s nostalgia, but I think people just love a good rock and roll song, no matter when it was recorded. So you can hear the people going crazy for this thing. It doesn't sound out of place at all either. It sounds like, all right, well, yeah, they're doing all this new stuff, but they can throw in Surfin' USA, and it totally fits. It doesn't sound ironic, and it doesn't sound cheesy. It doesn't sound like, you know, oh, that was them then. It sounds like, it's just a good song. You know, they don't forget where they come from, and I don't think the audience does either, and I think they all appreciate that they can appreciate the oldies together. Then you get Good Vibrations, and this craze just goes over the audience as everyone erupts in joy over Carl starting the song off. Just an excellent version. Really well done. And then Fun, you know, Send Them Home Smiling. You know, it's Mike really rules on this one. The guitars, the drums, the vocals, all of it is so passionate and so fun, and the screaming going on. I mean, it just, the whole thing says you've just enjoyed a double live album from the 70s. You know, like we've been through the whole concert together. You know, wasn't this great? But yeah, I really, really dig this album a lot. I think the packaging is so cool. The pictures of the guys are awesome. You know, got some great shots of the guys down there. And that back cover is so cool just to see them all up there. On the front cover is just Dennis. Which is, you know, they recorded a lot of songs on this tour, including stuff that he was singing, like Forever. and some other Sunflower songs, and you know they did Surfs Up and all that stuff. But it would have been a 3-disc set had they put everything out that they were doing in their show at that time. So unfortunately, Dennis doesn't get a lead, which is kind of sad, you know, because he had an amazing voice. But Brother Records, reprise, Warner Brothers. Oh, can you see that? That's super bright. There we go. But yeah, the Beach Boys in concert. They did this jukebox style, so side 4 and side 1, and then the other record is side 2 and 3, which is super annoying, but you know, that's how it was back then. It also came out on cassette. So here's the cassette, which I think is pretty cool. There's the side. As far as I can tell, this is an original cassette because it says, you know, Warner Brothers, Brother Records reprise on it. You know, it's a single cassette, so they fit, you know, side 1 and side 2 on side 1, and then side 3 and side 4 on side 2. But yeah, it's got the label there, so this has to be an original from what I can tell. Yeah, easily one of my favorite Beach Boys albums ever. Hearing them at this point, I love the addition of Ricky and Blondie, the band. They were such a great addition to the group, and they blended in so well and added such a cool dimension and flavor, and I love their voices, and I love the style of playing that they brought in. You know, Blondie's an excellent guitarist. He's really fantastic, and Ricky's drumming is just so rock and roll. I mean, he was so into it and excited about it. So, yeah, I love this album so much, and it's just fun. And here's the inside again. Let's show that off. Just some great shots of the guys. So yeah, you know, this right after this, they had a dry spell recording wise in between 73 and 74 and 75. There was like they recorded really sporadically after like non-stop recording for quite some time, and then we got 15 big ones after that, and you know, Endless Summer happened right after this in 1974. So like things changed. You know, the Beach Boys changed, and you know, it's fascinating to hear them at this point being so on top of their creative game and into being a current band and showing their strengths and changing with the times and not relying on the hits of the past. You know, you don't get Surf and Safari on this thing. I mean, they did do I Get Around at this point, but it's not on here. You know, you barely get California Girls. I mean, like, they really weren't relying on the early 60s anymore. They were relying on, like, 66 up to 73 and a lot of new stuff. You know, Leaving This Town, The Traitor, Funky Pretty, Sail on Sailor, they're all here. You know, and you even get Let the Wind Blow. I mean, there's some great tracks on this thing. So, if I had to give it a rating, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. What are you going to do about it, man? 10 out of 10. Beach Boys in concert. Absolute smash of an album. The excitement, the energy, the double record set. You sit down, you listen to it, you get sucked into the concert vibe. Great album. Great experience. Love the whole thing. Everyone's on top of their game. They all sound fantastic. And the song choices are stellar. So, that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Beach Boys in concert. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.